Now you take a look at this stone and you tell me that you've ever seen that stone before. Many of our viewers probably have not. As a matter of fact, until about 10 minutes ago, Calvin Castine, who's manning the camera, and me, Gordy Little Who's He, hadn't paid any attention to that stone either. It says, as you can see, Heritage Plaza Homestead, site of Dr. Benjamin John Moores, 1787 to 1869, pioneer physician, War of 1812 patriot, dedicated 1976, that's 23 years ago. It's right in the front of the County Government Center at 137 Margaret Street in Plattsburgh, on a little hillock, if you will, off Margaret Street by about 35 feet. We just walked out here to start another program today for our little corner and happened to spot it and thought it would be a good idea to start that. In reading some of the old texts from Marjorie Lansing Porter and others who've written about the history of the city of Plattsburgh, we knew where some of the old buildings were located, but had forgotten that this was the homestead site for Dr. Benjamin Moores. Well, is presently the home of the Clinton County Government Center. And as you know, our program has focused on many of the departments within this building and has talked with some of the people who are responsible for those departments. We didn't do one with the Clinton County Probation Department, where I work, as our recent director, Sarah Fasold, has left to become a high-ranking official with the New York State Probation Department. We have an interim director now, and I'm sure she would be horrified if we walked in with cameras and microphones. So we won't subject Kathy Craig to that at this moment, although she's doing a wonderful job as an interim. When they pick a new director, we'll let him or her get their feet wet, and then we'll walk in with the cameras and microphones and find out how the probation department works, and let you know how our little victims advocacy center fits into the entire picture in the government center. I would never have dreamed 4 or 5 years ago that Gordy Little would be finished with his career in radio and would be working as a victims advocate inside this building starting on November 2nd, 1997, but it's true. And I told my wife when I drove by this building just yesterday on my way to a graduation of CV Tech at Clinton Community College and their beautiful new recreational facility, it still seems strange to think that I park in that parking lot every day when there's a space and go to work here in the Clinton County Government Center. It's a career that I've enjoyed, one of several careers that I've enjoyed during my lifetime, but I love to come to work here every day. Very nice people in many departments. That having been said, we're going to go inside and interview a dear friend of ours. When we haven't interviewed him on the air, we've interviewed people who know him. We've talked a great deal about his father and his family history. We've talked about John Zurlo in connection with Bob Venn and drive-ins in the North Country. And we almost got late for starting that show here on the on a Wednesday. What is today, the 22nd or 23rd of June, 1997, because John, 1999, just 2 years off. What's 2 years among friends? 1999, because we're talking about drive-ins and about the old days. Well, we may cover a little bit of that ground today, but hopefully before this edition of our little corner is finished, you'll know a lot more about John Zurlo, how he was born, where he was brought up, what schools he attended, and how he became the clerk of Clinton County, and a little bit more about how the county clerk's office operates and what they do. Do you know? Stay with this program and maybe you'll find out on the inside. You know you're old when you stand in front of a list of the Clinton County clerks and you know all those that go back to 1952. John Zurlo, we just went outside and we took a picture of that beautiful stone plaque that's out in front of the building as this being the site of a very historic building. And now we got another historic building here, the Clinton County Government Center. We're inside looking at this list of county clerks. How many of those people did you know?
Well, let's see. Certainly I knew my predecessor, Bernard A. Mell. I knew Arthur Twa. I knew Halsey Stark. Bill Paquette was a bowling partner of mine. That was Larry's dad.
Come on,
yes.
are you kidding?
So I can remember the first clerk being William Paquette, Bill Paquette. He was from Champlain.
Isn't that amazing? Quite a history.
Yes. This was one of my original projects when I became the clerk. Didn't know much about the doings of the clerk's office, but I delved into the records and thought that would be nice. And as you can see, Melanchthon Woolsey was the first clerk way back in 1788 when the county was incorporated.
Well, I'll tell you, there are a lot of very famous names in that list of people who are famous in Plattsburgh and Clinton County history.
That's exactly correct, Gordy. You can see the Holcombs there, a very popular name, Woods, McCaffrey, Lafee. They were all famous names here in the city. Yes, you can go through them all, starting with the second county clerk, Charles Platt. Going down the list, St. John B.L. Skinner, a strange way to place his name, St. John B.L. Skinner. That's exactly the way he signed his name. They came off some of the old deed books. That's where we got some of these records so that we could find out when they were clerks and what order, and off the old deed books, and that's the way they signed their name. Let's see, we've got Darius Parsons. He was a North Country person. Let's see, there was the Turners, a very famous name, popular name in Plattsburgh. So, yeah, there's a lot of history there.
Quite a lineup. And guess who's the last one on the list, huh?
Yes, I replaced Bernard Amell, and Bernard has the distinction of being the clerk that had the greatest longevity. As you can see that he replaced Arthur Toit. He defeated Arthur Toit in 1972, so he served from 73 to the end of 1995. So I think in terms of longevity, Bernard has the record.
That means you got to be here for a long, long time. I'm not sure you'll be able to hobble out of your office.
Don't think that will happen. This fellow's going to retire after another term, I believe. But this first term has been very enjoyable. Getting ready to work for the second term, but it was an enjoyable 4 years.
That's great. What I'd like to do is walk into your office and sit down for a little while and just find out a little bit more about who John Zurlo is and what this office does, and then we'll just take a little look around.
Great.
Okay?
Not a problem.
Let's do it.
Hi, Gary.
It just seems to me like it's a long ways from Champlain to Plattsburgh, and the drive-in days of the early 1960s to the chair that belongs to the guy who runs the show at the Clinton County Clerk's office. A little bit of water over the dam since way back when, Mr. John Zurlo.
And don't forget 35 years of teaching in between.
Yeah, they're about... I was mentioning several of my careers as we stood out in front of the Government Center, but you've had a few yourself, haven't you?
Yes, you mentioned the drive-in days, and we've chatted in the past about them. Yeah, I was in the drive-in business in the glory years of the drive-in business in the 60s and early 70s, and they were a big part of my life. I was recently married and worked day and night managing the drive-in in Champlain, and it was a great business when it was hot, but it just wore out. Video cameras and videos came about, and the drive-in business got hurt by it all, and that's the way it happens. I mean, a business is hot for a while and then goes the other way.
I try to explain to young people what life was like in the mid-'60s here. '60s was a very interesting era for a lot of reasons, some of which we certainly don't have time to go into today. But in talking to people about this North Country and what it was like when I first moved here, when General Dynamics Astronautics was here building those Atlas missile sites, we had this tremendous infusion of people from all around the country working here. Plus, we still had the unbelievable influx of Canadians coming down to enjoy the various things that we had, including our beaches and our stores and our drive-in theaters, it was an age that will never be recalled. I mean, we can recall it, but it'll never be repeated. So now we're a part of history, and to try to explain what life was like. Before the cameras began, John was telling us how the cars used to be stacked up outside that drive-in, how they were even contemplating building a second-tier parking area so people could park way up above in the back and watch a movie. I never heard of that concept. I wish you had done that.
Well, the principal owner was Jim Morgan, who had an electrical contracting business, Geddes Electric Company, operated in Rouse's Point and in Plattsburgh. And he had the idea to start a drive-in because he couldn't go to the nearest drive-in. It was always filled. So he decided to build his own drive-in, and he did. And business got to be so good that we would turn away as many people as we put in, and we had a 900-speaker drive-in.
Wow.
And on Saturday nights, we would turn that many and more away. And he had the idea to put a second level on it for about 200 or 300 cars, but it never materialized. But that was one of his ideas. We used to stack cars in there, 4 rows deep, and we would hope and pray that enough people would leave after the first show. We always played 2 shows, and a lot of people only stayed for 1, and we would hope that we would lose 300 or 400 cars after the first show and then bring in the others, and we'd replay the first one, so we would get done at 3, 4 in the morning. But it was the glory years of my life. Really, it was
stuff in the money and baskets, and I mean, there people were coming in. It had to be the biggest traffic jams, and I remember even the races at Airborne Park back in those days would take you an hour just to get out of the place.
Yeah, we thought we were making tons of money. We had a lot of big turnover, but you got to remember that the admission back then was 75 cents when I started in 1962, and then went to $1. And then when we played a big road show like Cleopatra or some big famous movie, we'd charge an extra $1. We might get $2 for the show. And of course, they were all on a percentage basis. If you played a big show like that, we would have to give the distributor as much as 90% of our gross. So, we had to have the big turnover. But yes, the Canadian exchange wasn't bad back then, 7 or 8%. And the Canadian people they like to travel. They like to be on the move. So the drive-in business fit their way of life. And that was 80% of our business was from across the border.
It's amazing, because I used to spend a lot of time talking to people who ran drive-in theaters, and I'm glad you mentioned the fact that it cost you a lot of money to get movies back in those days, and most of the theater managers and owners were decrying the fact that they had to pay out so much money, because everybody thought every dollar you made there at the gate was what you put in your pocket. It didn't always work out that way. It was interesting, though.
Not the case. We had a big payroll. On Saturday night, we had as many as 20 people working. And of course, you had a lot crew that had to clean the lots in the morning and get the restroom facilities cleaned up. And the first show, I recall, was always a flat fee, but the second show was the main feature, and we averaged around 40%. We would pay 40% for our films, and of course 60% was ours. But the concession business was ours too, and that was very profitable.
It was always great. Some of my fondest memories have to do with drive-in theaters all around the North Country. I've written columns and short stories about the first drive-ins I ever attended, one right near Messina Center, where I lived outside of Messina, sneaking in. And
that's right.
And we've talked about our friend, the late Bob Venn, and the property next door, and how he'd get a speaker in the window and watch the movie through the window, and Teresa would look at him and say, I can't be bothered with that stuff.
Well, Bob was, as we all remember him, a super special fellow, and had his own way about doing things, but spoke his mind and had a lot of great ideas. So I was a good husband, a great father, and he was our neighbor behind the drive-in. And he would call us up, and at wee hours of the morning, especially on the warm nights, and when there was a little breeze, and that sound would run right into his bedroom window, and into his home. And what happened was that after people would leave, they wouldn't turn their speakers off, and we used to hire a special police officer to go around and turn those speakers off, but it never, sometimes didn't always get done. And Bob would call up and he would harass us to the point where we finally made a deal with him. Look, don't harass us anymore. We'll hook you up with a speaker right in your house. So he had his own speaker, watch every movie, no charge. I think he sent us a check to make things legal of $25 a year or something like that. But he was a good neighbor. When we were out of power, if something happened and our sump pump in the concession stand had to keep going, he would loan us power. You know, we'd run an extension cord, about 1,000 feet from his house. So he was a good neighbor.
That was a lot of fun. So many great memories. I would, just before we get into the inner workings of the county clerk's office, and I want people to know before we leave what happens here, I want to find out a little bit more about John Zurlo and what it was like to grow up in the shadow of a pretty famous father up there in the northern tier, and what life was like for you as a young person.
Nice of you to mention my father. He was a great guy, and many people in the area still remember him. Some of the old Sheridan iron workers, that he was so good for Sheridan. Never wanted lack of work. If he saw slow times coming, he would leave town for weeks on end and round up work for his people, so he wouldn't have to lay them off. So he was good, and he was a very civic-minded fellow, and I hope to think that some of my civic-mindedness came from my father. You know, the old story, you have to put back from what you take out, and I've tried to do that to as much as I could. I was born in the late 30s, had good parents, went to early school in Champlain, on to St. Michael's College. After St. Michael's, was employed as a teacher at the Champlain Central School District. Later, we had a merger with Rouse's Point, St. Mary's, and Moores, and what's called Northeastern Clinton Central School District, and enjoyed my 30-plus years there immensely. And but it was time for me to go. You know, it's like the prize fighter or the baseball player. You know when it's time, and I thought it was time for me, and I knew that I was young enough to get into other things and to have another life of doing something other than teaching that I knew so well and did all my life, and that's exactly what happened. So I feel personally that my life has been somewhat fulfilled, did everything I wanted to do, and enjoyed everything I ever did. So what more can you ask?
You can't really. It's very difficult for us to explain some of the charm this North Country has, but when you've lived around here all your life, especially somebody like you who's actually lived in the same area for almost your entire lifetime, it really does become a part of your fabric, and it's not hokey. When John and I and Calvin and many other people we meet say, we feel as though we should give something back, and that's an exchange that goes on throughout your lifetime, and hopefully we can perpetuate it with the people we meet, and maybe even a little bit toward this, through this hometown cable television show, because that's what makes it good, when people give back. Huh?
Not a question. And you're absolutely right. You know, I feel that I was destined to be here. Somehow in my mind, I always felt, with the exception of the 4 years that I spent at St. Michael's and the 1 year when I worked on my advanced degree at Albany State, I was here in this county. And people ask me, geez, why don't you move on and do... I said, I feel that I'm needed here. You know, I was very close to the children at Northeastern. I think there was something about my fiber, my makeup that fit the bill, and I felt I was needed to do the job that I did, and there was no way that I was going to be pulled away from here. And whereas my brother, on the other hand, you know, he left for Fordham University and never came back, except, you know, these are his roots. He's coming back now. He's going to build a summer home here. But, you know, he was away all his life and made a good life for himself. But, you know, he was the adventurous guy. I remember when we took him down to Fordham University. He was just a little boy out of a small little community, and here we are in Fordham Road approaching Fordham University, and my mother's looking at all this traffic and the 12 or 15,000 that were at Fordham at the time. And she said to him, Gene, she says, if you want to go back home and we'll find another school. And she says, this is a rat race down here. And he looked at her and said, Mom, maybe I like rat races. And he sure did. He was in a rat race all his life and made a successful life for himself. But he liked that busy work.
But you know, staying here in the North Country has given us that warm and fuzzy feeling. We feel like we're home. It's maybe it's the old, maybe psychologists would say it's that longing to remain connected with the womb. But this is the place where you were nurtured, and in a larger sense, it's the place where I was really nurtured in the North Country. Although I was born down in Rockland County, I've lived around the northern portions of northern New York enough to know that I would never be able to leave. I like to go on a vacation as much as the next guy, but I always love to come back home.
Nice to come back. My wife and I were fortunate to go to Italy 5 or 6 weeks ago, and we had a great time there, 15 days. It was my homeland, really, and my wife had gone there in the past, and she says, you're going to Italy before it's too late. So we did go. We spent a great time, but it was 15 days. But on the 12th, 13th day, I was ready to be back in Champlain, I'll tell you, in Clinton County. But you're right, a great place to raise children, as we both know, you and Calvin as well. We did the same thing. I had 2 children. One of them still here. I'm happy to have him close by, but my other son is close by as well, only 2.5 hours away, lives in Clifton Park, works at the New York State Senate. But John, my oldest son, is a teacher at the correction facility in Altona, and serves as a customs officer in the summer, and so he's married and currently building a little horse farm for himself, he and his wife.
I think we're I think we ought to be paid by the New York State Tourism Council for doing this little promotional program for Clinton County, but we do love it here. And the 3 of us in this room, Calvin, whose face almost never gets shown behind the camera there, and you and I, have talked about it so many times. We've both been involved in participating in athletic endeavors during our lifetimes, and the best part of it is to go and watch the kids play sports and watch them grow up playing basketball and football and all the other sports. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that's probably the first time I ever ran into you was at the hockey rink when your son was such a quality player way back in the 70s, I guess it was, and we had a lot of fun watching them grow up and participate in these competitive events. No question about it.
You played sports in your youth?
Yes, I did. In high school, I was a 3-sport player: basketball, soccer, and baseball. And then on to college. I played baseball for 4 years at St. Michael's College, and enjoyed that very much. Being a teammate of Warren Lefty Tesher, who was quite a legend here in Clinton County, and whenever I see Warren, I'm glad to see he's back in Clinton County, because I hadn't seen him for many, many years. Warren, when I introduce him to people when we're at meetings or at events, I introduce him as Clinton County's greatest athlete, and in my mind, there's never been a more quality athlete that ever left Clinton County than Warren Lefty Tesher. Warren signed, he was a great basketball player in high school and played at St. Michael's as well, and St. Michael's had great teams in the 50s. They were a small college powerhouse in the 50s, went to the NCAA Small College Championship year after year in the 50s and 60s. And Warren also played baseball at St. Michael's, was a quality pitcher, signed with the Philadelphia Phillies right off the St. Michael's campus after his junior year, and was doing quite well till he was involved in a collision at first base. He was covering the bag, and he got collided with, threw his shoulder out, and that was the end of his baseball playing. But fortunate for him, while he was in the hospital recovering, he met this wonderful nurse and married her, and that's his wife today.
Isn't that a great story? That ought to be an Ann Landers, huh, with all those how we met stories. But it's amazing. And it is good to be in the North Country. So let's fast forward this whole film and talk about how you got started in this job.
Well, it got started way back in the late '60s. Actually, I loved local politics for some reason. It intrigued me, and as a young teacher, I was hired by the committee in Champlain to be an election inspector or a party representative, where you went early in the day at election day and made sure that there were all zeros on the machine, and you were there when they counted the ballots. It was a trivial little thing, but it's required by law, and really it intrigued me very much. And then when the job of tax collector in the town of Champlain became available, I said, gee whiz, I was just recently married in the late '60s, and I said, I think I could qualify for that job. So I did, and was elected for 11 consecutive terms. That was 22 years.
All by itself.
And during those years, the county reapportioned, and they went from the Board of Supervisor type of governorship here in the county to a Board of Legislators. And Bob Breedenberg, who was a former supervisor in the town of Champlain, was running for that legislator's seat, and we campaigned together, myself as the tax collector and Bob as the new legislator. And that was my first term. That was way back around 1967. And Bob served quite a few years and was appointed as the Republican election commissioner. And Larry Paquette became the new legislator from Area 1. And Larry stayed for many years until illness required him to retire, and I replaced him as a legislator for 3 terms, 6 years. And then I decided that I would run for the county clerk's position, and Bernard A. Mell decided to retire, and so I was elected, and this is how I got here. So I had some background in the political circles, and felt I had some base to be elected, and it worked out for me.
And once again, it's another way to give back, right?
Absolutely. John Kennedy said years and years ago that young people should think about serving their government, because they can serve their people so well by serving their government. And yes, I thought that was, I think I've given back some, and it was very enjoyable, meeting so many people and trying to do things for so many people. And it's very satisfying when something gets accomplished. I know that this year the state budget didn't go so well, and some of the legislators left feeling that they didn't do the greatest job for their constituency, but it's difficult with a two-party system, and you all have to get along, and this year they just couldn't put it together. But when you do accomplish something, it's very gratifying, and I think I did a certain amount of that.
I'm sure you're too modest. You did a great deal of that. Just because we haven't had a budget in this state on time in 15 years is not your fault, John.
Not a bit. My son works down there, and he tells me, "Gee, don't look like it's going to happen. Don't look, it's going to happen." But that it's the way things go. I mean, people
will figure that out someday. Because we used to have budgets on time every now and again. If we were 2 days late, it was a big deal. Now we're here for 15 years in a row. We're doing this program late in June in 1999, and April 1st seems like past history, doesn't it?
Long time ago.
Let's talk a little bit about this office and what the county clerk does. Most of our viewers, I'm sure, have very little personal connection with the county clerk's office wherever they are, except when they need to get something official done. And so they don't know. I think people are going to be amazed when this program finishes to find out what goes on here.
Well, you're right. This is where something official does happen. We are the official house for all the recordings that would go on in Clinton County. If you have a deed to be recorded, a mortgage to be recorded, these are the two primary types of things that are recorded. But we record many things, and you could imagine the volume of records that we have in our vault, which we will see a little bit later on. So large that we're running out of space, and because we were running out of space, we instituted, and you say, what do you do as a county clerk? Well, I don't do the day-to-day recording, but my job more is an administrative capacity, where I look the situation over and what can we do here to keep this ship operating in a consumer-oriented fashion. So I instituted a system called a scanning and retrieval system, all done with new technology, with the approval of the Board of Legislators. I'm very thankful that they understood and had the foresight to see what I was talking about, and they went for it, are paying for it, and as it turned out, it was the right thing to do, because we had no more space to store books. We're loaded up. Space is a big problem today in all of the county clerk's offices in the state. And you mentioned coming from Rockland County. One of the counties that I visited before we instituted this new program in our vault was Rockland County. Clerk down there is a fellow by the name of Ed Gorman. And they put in a system which is similar to the one that we put in, only on a much larger scale, because of course Rockland County is they handle more. They're busier than we are. But what our system does now is that any deed, mortgage, or any document that comes in, we scan it, and you will see how this operates a little bit later. It's scanned and it's put right on our system. And if a person comes in, wants a copy of their deed, they want to see their deed, they want a copy of their mortgage, comes up on the computer screen, and the pages come up. You want to magnify it, you want to shrink it, you want to see the third page, you want to see just the cover sheet. You do that all on the computer screen. There's a list of instructions there how to operate the system. If you still have difficulty, we have personnel out there that'll show you through it. If you want a copy of that deed or that mortgage, press a button, and there's a laser printer right there that'll print that. So no books. We don't have to record anything in books anymore and stack these books up, fill our shelves up. It's all done on a computer screen. So that's one of the innovations that I brought along. We have new map storage now. This is a funny situation. The cloth that the surveyors use to make maps is difficult to obtain now. So the surveyors came to me and complained. They said, gee, we have to use mylar now. We can't buy cloth. And mylar is, maybe you're familiar with that, plasticky material that they're using now to make the survey maps. So we had to go to the state legislature to get our map sizes changed. Would you believe that there's a state law in the books that says what size the survey maps have to be in Clinton County?
Come on.
Yes.
I never would have known that.
I didn't know it either till I got involved in it. So we had to get bills passed from both the Senate and the Assembly, and passed by both houses, so that we could change our map size because the mylar came in different sizes than the old cloth. And then we had to get new map storage, which is a new system that I can show you out there as well. So our maps now are mylar. See, mylar you can't fold up because you'll crease it and rip it. The old cloth maps you could fold up, put them in books. So we got rid of all the big map books too. So we're saving space out there in the vault with these new innovations. And I feel that's my duty, to come up with new ideas that will make things a little bit easier to live with here.
You have to if you're going to get into the 21st century here. You got to change. Yes. But there's so much history involved back there.
No question.
Some of the old books are still there.
Well, we have
how far back?
Yeah, the old book. Well, since the late 1700s, that we have some records.
Wow.
Yeah, unbelievable. And most of them, not all of them, but most of them are on microfilm. There are some that did not get microfilmed in the past, but all of our documents today are microfilmed for backup. Even the documents that go on our new scanner, even though they're on the computer, they're all backed up by microfilm as well.
Think of what a job that must have been when that started, getting that stuff all on the microfilm and then now scanning all that stuff into the computers. Wow, thousands of hours.
You know what is even a bigger task than that is when you think back of those county clerks that we looked at on that board from Langton, Wolseley, to whenever they stopped writing them by hand. All those county clerks wrote deeds and mortgages by hand. That was their
Every
job.
single one.
Every one of them. Admittedly, there weren't a lot of transfers back in those days, but all of those old deeds, and I can show you some of the old deed books, that the county clerk would write them out in longhand. It was unbelievable. Then sign them. I became aware of this when I did that program to come up with the county clerks. It wasn't easy to find all those names. There was no book where they were all listed. But I went back to some of the old deeds and some of the old mortgages and found where they wrote them out and then signed them. Unbelievable task.
Unbelievable where we are today and where we were yesterday. But this history, when you start talking 1700s, that gets my historical blood going here, because it's great. We have so much history here in Clinton County, and we're trying to open that book so that people from outside will know this is a good place to come and visit, because we have tremendous history. When you say late 1700s, that's amazing.
Many people come in for genealogies and researching their families, and we can help them to a certain extent, or tell them where else they can go to find reference that would help them. So yeah, there's a lot of history out there. It's amazing. It's mind-boggling how much even the old census books that we have in the vault to show the families that lived in Clinton County and how many people lived in the house and who lived there and what their occupations were. It's all listed there. It's incredible. The records. It's amazing that people kept such good records way back then. You know, today we're in the era of record keeping, but way back then you wouldn't think they would have kept such great records. But it's amazing what records we do have from way back.
This office has grown, this county has grown, the county government has grown to the point where the whole Clinton County government has outgrown this building, outgrown the seams. I mean, this is not a revelation to any of our viewers, I don't think. There have been a lot of newspaper, television, and radio comments about it. You know, parking is at a premium downtown. Most of the offices here in the government center are squashed. People are squashed in. I don't know what the future will hold, but something's got to be done.
Good point. You know, it's probably a sign also that the economy in Clinton County is on the upswing. You know what they're doing over at Park. There's an article in the paper almost every day. There was an excellent article about Park today and how they're going to have their show to show the people of Clinton County what businesses are in there and what they do. But you're absolutely right. I know our business here in the clerk's office has increased tremendously. The income has increased tremendously. It's a situation where the parking is very difficult. In order to alleviate a little bit of a problem there, we now take passport pictures here. We have our own camera that'll allow us to do that. Where people used to come in, we'd have to send them out to get a picture. They don't have a parking spot for the first time they came. Then they have to leave and get this picture, come back, and they don't have a parking spot again. So they get quite irritable. So we have a camera. We take the old picture, one-shot deal. We do the whole process right here. And we even have a mobile passport service now that we introduced quite recently. Many of the schools, many of our area schools now go on European trips or at Easter time. They might go to France, they might go to England, might go to Spain. Well, you can imagine the leader of that trip, the teacher, riding herd on all of the kids, might be 25 or 30 of them. Did you get your passport? Did you? And the parent has to come down and sign for them. So it's a very difficult thing. So now, if there are 10 or more passports, we will go to the place of business or to the school and do it. And our girls will do it after hours. So that's another service that we're offering. Talking about the increased business, I was just reading a little bulletin that came recently, a day or so ago. Our deeds, for example, to show you what we're doing. In January, our deeds, we recorded almost 15% more deeds than we did the previous January. And we recorded this is an earth-shattering figure. In January of 1999, compared to January of 1998, we recorded 143% more mortgages. We went from 99 in 98 to 241 mortgages in 99.
Wow!
So business and it's still on the upswing. Here's the latest month in March. March, we've increased our business in this clerk's office right out here at the front counter by 28% for deeds and 16% for mortgages. And every month, it's the same thing. It's increasing and increasing and increasing. It's unbelievable. So our revenues are increasing. I remember when my predecessor's his general revenue account was around $500,000 when he left, and we're over $700,000 now, and that's only been in 4 years. So revenues have been increasing. In order to, one of the reasons that we instituted a cover sheet. Now what a cover sheet is a sheet that goes on every document. If you come in with a deed, an attorney comes in with a deed or a mortgage and wants to record that, he has to have a cover sheet attached to it. That cover sheet tells who the mortgagee is, who the mortgagor is, where that deed or mortgage has to be returned to, so on and so forth. The fees are on the right-hand side, signed by the county clerk. That's a regular page that's attached to the document. Every page in that document that is recorded costs $3. So we're picking up $3 for that cover sheet as well. And that $3, lo and behold, is paying the bill for our new technology.
No kidding.
New technology down there, our scanning and retrieval system. So that pays the yearly bill, that cover sheet alone. So we were quite successful with that too.
All right, let's talk about staff. How big a staff do you have?
Well, on the county clerk's side, I have 4 at the front counter and 3 that work the vault in the back. And not a ploy to say that we need more employees, but we're working probably a little understaffed now to do this volume of work. But we do have 7 on the clerk side, and I have 13 on the DMV side. You got to remember that the county, under the guise of the county clerk offices, we have the Department of Motor Vehicles as well. Have a supervisor over there who does very well, but he has 13 employees on that side.
That's a good point. I'm sure a lot of our viewers have no idea that you that was all under the same umbrella.
Yes.
And that's changed a lot over there over the last couple of years.
Yes, and when you go over there, I'm sure you're going to go over there today, and the supervisor will explain to you what innovations that we instituted over there. We're trying to become more user-friendly. We think we have. We have a help desk now where you can go in and talk to the people at the help desk before you get in line, so that you know when you're in line. You're not going to get kicked out of line because you're lacking some document or whatever to get your license or your registration or whatever. So the help desk will make sure your paperwork is in order. Then you get in line and stay in that one line and transact all of your business, including the payment. In the past, you would wait in that one line, and after they recorded your paperwork, they'd send you to another line to make payment. Now it's all done in one line, so it seems to be a little bit more simplified. Also, we have all new window-based computers over there at the desks of all of the operators, all of the motor vehicle license clerks, and that makes for more consumer oriented, or we're more consumer oriented than before.
Well, you know, there's in the many years ago, there always used to be a lot of controversy surrounding the Department of Motor Vehicles. I never had any problems in the old days, but in the radio business, I would hear people griping and complaining all the time. And now, in terms of being user-friendly, I see people walking in and out with smiles on their faces.
Well, we're not. We're still working on that. It's a difficult thing because you know, a lot of people just figure Department of Motor Vehicles. Well, it's a bad situation. Well, we're working to improve that, and we know that we're not 100% yet, but we're getting better. We know that we are making rapid strides. We know that people are being taken care of better than they ever have been taken care of, and I don't mean that they were taken care of poorly before, but because of the new equipment and stuff, we're more consumer oriented. We can treat them a little bit better, give them quicker service, and our personnel is they're understanding that these customers are the people that are paying their salaries, and we are more consumer oriented. I have to give them a lot of credit over there. We still have snags. There are problems that occur, and we like to hear about these because that's the only way we can make corrections. There was a situation, a lady came in here the other day. She was here 3 or 4 times, and she came in to see me. She says, I can't get this resolved. Well, now we have come up with a little tear sheet that when this particular problem that she had comes up, it was over a boat registration, I believe, that we have a direction sheet. This is what we need when you don't have, when your boat has been expired, the registration has been expired, you can't find the numbers on the boat to re-register. This is the information that you have to meet. These are the problems that you have to meet. And so we're trying to be more customer oriented, and I think we are.
And you listen to the customer.
Yes,
that's the best part.
Yeah. And our supervisor over there is he's very customer oriented and tries to solve their problems. If there's any problem, don't go away upset. Come in and tell us about it, and we'll rectify the problem, and perhaps that will rectify more problems in the future. That's the only way we're going to accomplish this.
I'm learning a great deal, and that's one of the reasons for doing the program, is so we can learn and in turn educate our viewers. The scope of the county clerk's office is much larger than I dreamed.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on here. I have a sheet here that's a little handout we have. I mean, I could run through a few of these things just to show you. We certify every record that's on file. Of course, we have deeds, mortgage recordings. We work somewhat with the real property office. We have real property maps that we can make available to people. Partnership agreements and corporation filings. We maintain hazardous waste behind Calvin's camera there. We have hazardous waste information. We maintain federal and state tax liens. If you didn't pay your income tax or whatever, or you didn't pay your tax on your payroll, and there's a lien placed on you by the feds or the state government, we have those records. We file oaths of office. People who are elected come here and file their oath of office.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't have a clue. Okay, go on.
Oh, God, let me just, UCC, we have a big UCC department. You probably talked to Rolly, who works with UCCs, Uniform Commercial Code filings. People buy personal property, they want to file a lien against that, do it with the UCC filing. We have subdivision maps. If you want to find out something about anybody who applies for a subdivision, to breaking up their acreage into lots, they have to file a subdivision map here. We have records of those, judgments, discharges, when mortgages are discharged. Of course, you want to record that, because when an abstractor then does an abstract of your property to sell that someday, if that discharge isn't recorded, they're going to say, hey, what's going on here? This can't be. You can't give the new owner clear title because that mortgage that you had hadn't been discharged. Powers of attorney, discharge of mortgage, assignment of mortgages, mechanics liens, and we have the court too. I am the clerk of the Supreme and County Courts. We do have a court clerk upstairs. For example, Terry Gordon is one of the court clerks, but the county clerk is the main clerk of the Supreme and County Courts, and that means that we maintain their records. We do have a storage area in the vault only for county court records. I'll show you that when we go down into the vault. So there are many things.
It just goes on and on and on.
This is a little handout we have. Loads of things that we do. You want to get your notary license renewed, you do it here, for example. So there are many things that happen that people really don't realize that happen here.
About the hub of activity. It's got to start and end here. If it has to go on file, it's got to go on file here.
And my staff down here, I mean, you could see that there's so many variations, so many things that they have to know. They're almost like paralegals. You know, they have to read over the deed and glance it over to make sure everything is required before it can be recorded, and things of that nature. So they have quite a lot of knowledge themselves that it's important to work here.
It's very nice to be surrounded by staff members who know what they're doing. Makes the boss look good, doesn't it?
You bet. When I take when I'm gone for a day, I come back and says, "Everything go well yesterday?" And the answer is better than normal. You know, so I don't have to worry. I've been blessed, and I have to give my predecessor Bernard Amell a lot of credit for that too, because they were his staff, and he was with them for over 20 years. I don't say we're all here for 20 years. Some of the younger people will take offense to that probably, but Bernard was here for over 20 years, and hey, he laid out the plan of attack, and that's what I walked into. So it was very easy for me to make the transition, and the staff is just excellent. You couldn't ask for better people. They do their work well. They don't squawk. They just figure that we get paid to do what we're doing, and happy to do the great job that they do.
That's great. Well, we've drawn a lot of word pictures here sitting in these chairs today, and you and I have been friends for a long time. We could talk for a long time on a lot of subjects, but what do you say we take a little look around and see what those vaults are like and see what some of the other operations are?
Yeah, I think what we'll do first is probably stop at the front counter where all of the work comes in, and then we'll slide into the vault, and we'll go into the scanning room and show you how our new system works, and then we could just maybe talk to people who are out there, attorneys who uses the vault, primarily abstractors and attorneys, but a lot of local people come in looking for records. They want a copy of their deed, or they want a copy of their mortgage. When the Veterans Office, the county allowed veterans exemption, and so we worked closely with the Veterans Office. They needed a copy of their deed. Many people, it's amazing, they don't have copies of their deeds. Maybe many of the veterans didn't have copies of their discharge papers, their DD 214. So we have all of that on file too. We have all the discharge copies of our veterans on file, and we were very busy back then when they were applying for those tax exemptions. So yeah, we'll take a walk back there, and maybe you'll have a better handle on what goes on here, and then we'll go over to DMV, and you can talk. Sue will tell us about conservation.
You wonder why that last sentence may have been truncated or cut off short? Well, every now and again the batteries go dead. Calvin's not used to having a person behind a microphone that could just talk and talk and talk. And when you get John Zurlo and Gordy Little together, we might skip lunch, Christmas, and New Year's, and most
we wore out one battery already.
But we put a new battery in, and we moved. And where are we now? We're behind the counter. I feel official now.
We're at the front counter, where we actually all the work is received. Without this counter, there would be nothing in the back, because the work is received here and recorded in the back. You can see that Teresa Bates, she is my first deputy. She is working with a customer now, and I believe they are negotiating. Is that a pistol permit, Mary, they're working on, a transfer of a pistol permit? And behind me is Mary Lavarando. She is one of the recording clerks that we have here, and she also is handles our pistol primary girl that handles our pistol permit work, and she might want to talk to you a little bit about that, because that's getting to be very a technical portion of our work. The laws change periodically, and we have to stay on top of that. So
we could take a whole college course on what happens in this office. So many things go on here. Mary, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. We didn't mean to interrupt your work, but I'm sure you won't mind for a moment. What do you do here, basically?
Well, we do a lot of things. It's never boring here. We do.
I knew that.
We issue pistol permits, and we also do the amendments to pistol permits. When people buy or sell a gun, they have to report it here, a handgun.
Why is that aspect of it getting so busy here?
I'm not sure if people are worried that they're going to lose their right to bear arms in the future. I'm not really sure.
Of course, that could be a possibility.
So we have quite a bit of paperwork with that, and as John said, the laws do change. So not often, but you have to keep up with it. We get a lot of questions.
Now, you're governed by both state and federal laws, right?
Yes. And the Brady law that went into effect gave us a little more work because we have to run a background check on everybody that wants to amend their pistol permit once it's 5 years old. So we faxed it to the sheriff, and they fax a result back to us.
It's amazing because we were already planning to talk to you first in this office, and just as we came here, somebody wanted to transfer a pistol permit, and that's part of what you do too, right?
Yes, we accept transfers from other counties if they move here, and if people leave our county, we transfer them out also.
Yeah. Mary, how long have you worked here?
17 years.
Come on.
Yeah.
At age 7, you started?
You know, they started me young. It's a great job, and John is a wonderful man to work for.
There are a lot of wonderful people in this office. I like to come down here every once in a while from the second floor just to get some sunshine.
Good. That's good because we don't have windows.
I know, but the sunshine I'm talking about comes from other places, and it is a good staff, and it's a great place down here to work. Thanks for talking with us.
Welcome.
See you later, Mary. I didn't ask her if she keeps a loaded gun underneath the desk for emergencies, but just a water gun. All right, we'll move along. Mary made me put my pistol on the desk before I started the interview there.
You're gonna talk to Teresa Bates next, Gordy. Teresa, I call her the chief hog in the trough. She's the
nice way to be.
She's the deputy county clerk. She's the senior recording clerk, and she can tell you everything about what goes on in this office. So you ought to get to her right away.
It's amazing how people get recruited. I'm sure you're a reluctant witness here today, Teresa.
Well, I'm not. I'd rather not be doing
this. She said,
this.
"Can I hide underneath my desk?" I would allow you to do that, except
really
Calvin can't bend over that well anymore, so it'd be hard to get the camera down there. Teresa, how long have you worked here?
22 years.
22 years, and Mary with 17. Boy, experience.
Well, a little bit.
How did you happen to come here in the first place?
Well, you have to take a test for county employment, for the recording clerk test, and I took the recording clerk test and passed it.
And did you intend to make this your career when you started?
Well, yes, I did. I had worked in other jobs and decided it was time to work in county employment or other employment, and I enjoy my job. It's a nice place to work.
Obviously, you know the job inside and out. It probably instituted...
There's a lot I don't know.
Oh, golly. We all learn every day. But it's getting to be a very busy place down here.
Yes, it is. The volume of work has increased considerably over the years, and it keeps increasing.
So what in essence, does your job entail on a daily basis? What do you do on a given day when you come to work in the morning?
Well, we record the deeds, mortgages, all the legal papers, judgments. We issue pistol permits. We issue conservation licenses, file notary oaths, collect the fees. We have to review the papers and make sure they're in proper form. And passport applications.
Oh boy!
We now take passport photos here, so that's another added convenience to the public that we have in our office.
Keep adding more duties. You're going to have to work 24 hours a day.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. But it is a busy place, and
It is a
people
busy
come in
office.
here, and I've heard some of the most bizarre questions being asked. They've managed to come up with new twists, don't they, when they come in here?
Yes, they do, but we can handle them. We're used to them.
Yeah.
We're used to them.
I imagine many of the same
We're here to
questions.
help the public, and that's what we try to do.
Yeah, generally, people are just not informed. Hopefully, by way of airing this program on the public access channels here in the North Country, we'll give people a little education about what goes on here. Because I'm sure many of your friends have no idea what you do in the course of a day.
Well, probably not, but I try to keep them informed.
Oh, you do, huh?
Just in case they think we don't have enough to do here. But yes, it's a busy office. We get questions from the public all the time on things that have no bearing with this office at all, that have nothing to do with our office, and we try to direct them and send them to the right place. Mainly, like I said, we're here to help the public.
But a lot of the vital things that occur in Clinton County do start here with the clerk's office. There are a lot of things connected with this office that people may not know.
Well, filing papers to go to court begins here, and civil actions, unless it's a small claims action. All the recording, and of course their title search is done by the private companies that do abstract and do title searches, and that's done in the vault area where they have to search the deed, search the title back. And after title is clear, then they can do their recording.
I'll tell you, the thing that fascinates me most about the clerk's office is the amount of history that's stored here, either in the books or now on computer, right?
Yes, we're now on computer. All the old records are in the books. We haven't been able to back up and do backup work on our new system because we just don't have the employees or the time. It's a very time-consuming job, but we have finally gotten into the modern age, and we do have a new system in place where we're doing it all now on computer, and our deeds are all on the computer on a disk. We do not create any more books because of the space. We just ran out of space. It got to be a very major problem. But yeah, our records date back to the 1800s and earlier.
Things were
different methods of doing it.
Completely different. John was telling us how
the deeds were handwritten.
Oh, handwritten and signed by the clerk, and it's fascinating to look at some of those.
Well, the handwriting is so intricate, and the descriptions are so different from what you see today. But we wouldn't have the manpower to handwrite all those deeds today if we had to.
If they relied on my handwriting, they'd be in big trouble.
Well,
even computers
I can understand that, really.
Well, you know, when you came here, how many, 22, you said?
Yes,
22 years ago. Computers were far less a factor in this business.
Well, we didn't have computers when I started working here. We used an old cash register and handwritten receipt.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm. It was a clunker.
A clunker?
Yes.
I heard that from the peanut gallery over there. Well, you have to get up to speed, don't you? Otherwise, the world would go by you so fast you'd never catch up.
Well, I believe we're catching up, or we have pretty well caught up, because we have a very, very up-to-date system out back now for our computer. We started with just computer indexing, and then we went to the scanning method of doing our deeds. We're still microfilming, but hope in the near future not to have to do our own microfilming. It will be done from the scanned document from the optical disc that we have in the back.
So that's two kinds of technology that have to merge at some point, huh?
Well, we are hoping soon. We're waiting for the system to be in place now to go to the new system, and it'll be much better. They'll be filming it right from a disc, from what we have already scanned in, instead of having to take a camera and take a picture of that deed.
Was it difficult for you to make that transition to all this modern technology?
No, I like the modern technology.
Oh, yeah?
I enjoy computers. Oh, yeah. No, I didn't find it hard at all.
You looked forward to it, yeah.
Yes, I did.
Oh, that's great. Well, we won't tie you up any longer. I know you have a busy day, Teresa. Thanks so much for all you've given to this county over the years.
Oh, you're welcome. I've enjoyed it. I like my job. I enjoy working in this office for the county. It's a good place to work.
I love it. Me too. And let's go into the vault. Now, the only time we heard her speak was in the background before when we had Teresa on camera, and I heard the word clunker come from over here, and I wasn't quite sure what that meant.
She was referring to the old cash register, and I remember when I didn't work.
She was referring to me for a minute, but...
No, I was referring to when I used to come in to record papers occasionally. I could remember that.
Who are you?
Handle on.
What's your name?
Judy Chandler.
Judy, I'm pleased to meet you, as we wanted to make sure we at least caught sight of everybody as they go by. How long have you been here, Judy?
5 years.
And you obviously like it here. You're a happy person.
Yes, I do.
What is your job here?
I mostly wait on customers at the counter, and a good part of my day is spent microfilming. I do the microfilming presently, which we will soon be discontinuing, but right now I spend a few hours out of every day microfilming the work as a backup to the scanning system.
It's a massive project. I hope by the time this program is finished, some of our viewers will have an idea how many separate things have to be done and recorded on every single day of the week. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, there's like 1,200 pages worth of work from last week that I microfilmed that I just sent out. So it's approximately...
That's beyond what I can even imagine.
It's a lot of paper shuffling. But as soon as this other system is in place with the imaging system, we'll be able to take all that put it onto a CD instead of having to page by page put it under the camera. With the new camera, it's great. It's a very modern camera where you just push a button, but you have to handle each piece of paper separately, so it does take time.
Well, you know, when you're the official recording organization in the county, it's got to be there when somebody wants to come and look at it.
That's right. And if one system's down, we always have a backup. So.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for all your hard work here.
Well, you're certainly welcome.
All right. Now we'll move into the vault. I knew if John got me in a closet, I'd be trapped and I'd probably miss lunch and my coffee break and all the other things I normally do. But we're moved over to a friend of mine, Donna West. How are you?
Hi, Gordy. Fine, thanks.
She and I have been buddies for a long, long time. It goes way, way back to the radio business.
Be careful, I'm not that way back, okay?
Oh, a year and a half?
All right.
2 years?
Okay.
10 years? But she's a fellow Morrisonville resident.
Yes, I am.
Donna, how long have you worked for the county?
For 24 years.
Come on.
24 years, yeah.
Holy mackerel. You might be here for the duration. Did you ever dream when you started you were going to spend the rest of your adult life working here?
No, I didn't. Actually, I thought it was going to be just a short-term thing, and I just love it here. Everybody's great to work with.
Isn't it amazing? There are such a good number of people who work in this building, and especially down here. We met so many nice people today.
Oh, yes. Yes, and there's so many that now I don't know because I used to work in the personnel office and lost contact with a lot of people, but there are a lot of great people working for the county.
All right. Where are we and what goes on in this room?
Okay, you are now in the scanning or imaging room. What I do here every day is I scan in all of the land records, and they're saved on what's called a platter, and it's not the same kind of platter you're used to, Gordy, but we have what's called a jukebox, actually.
I love it.
And it holds 64 platters, and each platter holds 50,000 pages of images.
Wow.
And each time out in the recording room, where we'll go in a few minutes, someone asks for a record on one of the retrieve stations. That retrieve station comes to the jukebox and pulls up that specific page that they're asking for, and it sends that page out there for them to view and print.
I can't even fathom this. When you're talking about all those pages, it's absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm.
How does the process begin? I know if you've taken a page out and I saw my name's on there, isn't that neat of you to do that?
I have copied your deed to be scanned, so we'll scan that in for you.
All right.
This is the scanner.
Oh my goodness. It whirs, it ticks. It clunks.
Okay.
I might say that Donna is a computer whiz. You just love to play with computers.
Yes,
at
I
home
do.
and on the job, don't you?
Graphics are my favorite, though.
And you're so good at it. We saw a menu that you made
Yes.
for mainly lobster that was so neat. They still use it, don't they?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Okay, so your image is now scanned up on the screen.
That didn't take long.
No, just seconds. And then I can check each one, and I can delete if I want. Okay, and there's the back page. Okay, and as soon as I file document, they'll be able to retrieve that document out there within seconds.
Oh, what a far cry from the old days where you had to go into a drawer somewhere and open the book and find the right page and try to remember what the maiden names were and what dates. And
And with our storage problems, the books, we just have no room for books anymore. And as you know, they're doing a study to find out what kind of space the county employees need. And right now we're out of space, so this was definitely a godsend. Mr. Zurlo checked into imaging, and we're very happy with the system that we have.
When did this start?
February 18th, 1998.
Oh, so it's only been in process a little over a year.
Yes, yes.
And did you have to do special schooling, or did you say, yeah, I could figure that out, or how did that?
I'd figure it out. COT Systems that we bought the system from sent technicians here to set up our equipment and gave us training for a week.
So there's probably a lot of money tied up in just in the equipment in this room, but then it's connected with other equipment in here too, right?
Yes, we have 4 retrieve stations in the recording room. We have 1 retrieve station in the front office, plus printers attached to each.
Now, who would tell you you need to do a certain thing at a certain time? Where does that information come from? Somebody from the front desk says, Donna, we need to get a copy or get a deed out, or how does that work?
It depends. The public comes in, we can bring them to the retrieve stations and pull up any information that they need on the retrieve station if they aren't computer literate, and we'll print it for them out there. The abstract companies, they do their own thing. They have what's called a debit card, and they can insert that in a machine and it'll bill them directly. They can pull up their own deeds and print them. That type of thing.
Even the billing is direct? Oh,
Yeah.
Is that neat?
Yes.
Oh, what a great system. So this is what you do all day long, every day?
No, not all day long, but it takes up a good chunk of my morning anyway. Yes. I deal with a lot of the land records, the Supreme Court and County Court orders, divorces, all kinds of things that I can show you out in the recording room.
Yeah. We knew in kind of a general way that the Clinton County Clerk's office is where records are kept. But we didn't know all the different kinds of records until we got here and started to talk to John today.
Oh, yes.
Almost everything that needs to be recorded is on file here.
Yes, it is.
Court records, amazing number of things.
List pendants, pending court cases. A lot of different liens. And I've pulled out one of our old deed books also to show you from the 1700s. We have a lot of things for people to do their genealogy studies and all kinds of things.
Oh, great. Now you're getting into stuff that really gets me excited. We're going to go from 1999 and cutting-edge technology here with all this scanning right back to the very beginning, aren't we?
Oh, yes. We used to be Albany County, so a lot of our records prior to the late 1700s, you'd find more in Albany.
No kidding. Well, there's another piece of information for viewers that I bet you a lot of people didn't know.
Right, and I'm sure if you spoke with our county historian, she could fill you in on a lot of that.
Oh, she has.
Yes.
We did a wonderful program with Addie Shields.
Yeah.
It was amazing. There's so much information there. It takes me months to process what Addie Shields says in 5 minutes.
Very knowledgeable.
The woman has so much history packed into that brain of hers. It's amazing.
Yes.
All right, Donna, where are we going to go next?
Okay, we'll go out to the map printer so I can show you how we process our survey and tax maps.
Well, let's do it.
Okay.
No sooner said than done.
Here we are.
What is it we're looking at?
Okay, this is our map printer. It's map printer 990. And what we do is we microfilm our maps, and they're mounted on what's called an aperture card. They take a small amount of the film and they mount it in the aperture card. We load that in and we can view the map on the screen, and this happens to be a map of Gordy Little's area. In fact, I believe his property is right there.
Right there. For those people who don't believe I live right on the Saranac River, I think that probably proves it.
Right, and then we just can print it right out and give you a copy.
Oh, isn't that the neatest thing in the whole world? far cry from the days when you had to go in and pull that map out of a book somewhere.
Oh, yes. And we used to use the old linen maps for the survey maps, but now linen is very difficult to get. So the surveyors are now using Mylar.
We talked about that with John, and that's something, of course, I wasn't familiar with. I'm very familiar with the old linen maps, and even had to get some laws changed so that we could get the map size changed.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Isn't that amazing? Let me hold this.
You owe her $3 now.
I owe her $3, yeah.
$3 a map.
Let me hold this up so Calvin can get a better shot of this map, because that whole process took just a very few seconds to be finished. You want to see what a floodplain looks like? You know, I've said it how many times on this camera and privately, hundreds and hundreds of times, Donna. I know you feel the same way. We live in a wonderful community out there in Morrisonville, even though you're on the ritzier town of Plattsburgh side.
Oh, goodness.
But no, it's a good place to live. You live in a beautiful spot on your road, and I live right next to the river, and nothing is more pleasing to me than to come home, especially at this time of year, walk to the back of my house of that enclosed deck that I have that's just a few inches from the river, watch it happen. We've seen all manner of birds and wildlife on that riverbank, and my wife called me all excited this morning about 2 hours, now we're talking about 11:15 now, about 2 hours ago, and said, well, we've seen everything, now we got a raccoon in the tree.
Oh, boy. Well, your dog will love that, Gordy.
Oh, Kia the dog and the raccoon, I couldn't let them get together. I worry about rabies this time of year.
Yes.
And although we haven't had any raccoon rabies here in Clinton County in a while, I still worry about it, so I'm careful to keep Kia in tow.
Yeah.
And by the way, how are your kitty cats?
Well, we have 3 now, and they're wonderful. They're our kids.
Oh, boy, and they are. When you talk about people who take care of their cats as if they were very close blood relatives,
That's
it's
right.
truly amazing. Nowhere are there more pampered cats than at your house. I know
No,
that.
except for the pampered dogs at Gordy's.
Oh, yeah, well, you know, we have to take care of our kids and our pets. All right, that map machine is amazing.
Yes, we love it.
What's next?
Okay, I just pulled one of the deed books.
All right, let's move
In fact,
my
it's
map
the
off of
oldest
that.
we have.
Oh, my. Just explain to me what we're looking at.
Okay.
Oh, my.
This is, the handwriting was fantastic. I can't imagine nowadays handwriting each and every deed and mortgage. But that's what they did back then. And this one's from 1785.
Perhaps you can read it. It says, this indenture made the 27th day of September in the year of our Lord 1785. And we're talking about very close to the birth of our country.
Isn't it wonderful?
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, a lot of our books. It's just great looking at the wonderful handwriting that people had back then. And then it's interesting to also see how they marked the boundary lines of all of the property. Sometimes they'll refer to an old oak tree on the corner, and I'm sure that oak tree isn't there anymore, but that marked the corner of the property. So it's really interesting, and how they explain, not in feet, but in chains and links and that type thing.
Chains and links and rods.
Yeah,
huh?
rods, yes.
Yeah, rods too.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that absolutely incredible? So this is the oldest book in the place, huh?
Yes, it is. It's the oldest deed that we have.
Now that's more than one deed.
Oh, yes. I'm not sure how many years are in here, but
Oh, just pages and pages. You know, most of that looks like it's written by the same person.
it probably was. Probably the recording clerk at the time did all of them. And I believe you'll also see that it's not all what we call Clinton County right now. You'll find different towns in here that could have been part of Essex County. You'll find here. Let's see. Now here says,
There's Zephaniah Platt. Boy, there's a name in Plattsburgh's history, though.
it says of Poughkeepsie in Dutchess County.
Oh, boy. So talk about historical documents. This is absolutely amazing because this is history back when Zephaniah Platt could have signed his own name on this had he wanted to, and maybe he did somewhere for all we know.
Yes, definitely.
And if you were to see the drawers and drawers and drawers of books, you'd know why this place ran out of space.
Yes, we had to consolidate 2 books into one just so that we could make space for more and more deeds. And we still ran out of space, so that's why we went to the imaging system.
You can understand how absolutely vital it is. It was a godsend when microfilm and microfiche came along, because it was enabled us to put a lot of documents and store them that way. And now, the imaging system and scanning them on those, what do you call them? Not discs.
Platters.
Platters. Are they larger than a regular disc?
Oh, I have a platter if you would like to see
Well,
one.
we got to see platters to find out what they're like. You lead us in there, and we'll take a look at what the platter has looked like. It's one thing to try to explain it to somebody, and another thing to let somebody see one. All right.
Okay.
Oh, that is different. Far different from a regular disc. isn't it?
Yes. And that's what the jukebox holds, and that's where all the images are kept.
And wow, 2.6 gigabytes?
It holds 50,000 pages or images.
That's,
Yes.
you know, for old guys like me, that's so hard to believe. And when you talk about space and you think about 50,000 pages in this tiny little space, now we know why we're going to this kind of technology.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm not sure how many books, 50,000 pages, I figured out, but it's a lot of books in one little place.
Now, how far along are we in the process? Are we going back and putting all the old stuff on this, or what?
Well, right now we're still at February 18th, 1998, but at some point Mr. Zurlo would like to go back a year at a time. It depends. We'd have to have extra help because right now we're quite limited with the amount of people that we have to do the work. But someday, we'd like to go back. Even 10 years would be great.
That's amazing. We'll watch the process happen, and we'll no doubt come back here at some other time. What are we going to look at next, Donna?
Okay, we'll go out in the recording room and we'll take a look at what we have out there.
Okay. Boy, we're in the place where things really have happened. I've spent some time in here looking through some of the old deeds and documents, and it's neat to me. We just looked at the old 1785 book, John.
That's the oldest book that we have, and we got that out for you, so you can
neat.
peruse.
That's neat. I wanted to ask you.
Did you see Melancton Woolsey's name in there? He was
No,
the
we
first
didn't, but we saw
signed all those.
Zephaniah Platt.
Yes.
You don't get any better than Zephaniah Platt.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about the man for whom it all happened here. I wanted to ask you, how do things in Clinton County compare to what's going on in the clerk's offices, for example, in our adjacent counties of Essex and Franklin?
Counties, by and large, operate a much similar basis. The only thing I can perhaps explain to you is that Essex County and Franklin County haven't gone to the technology that we have, as Donna explained to you in the scanning room, and will explain to you as she retrieves some of the information that she scans for you in a few minutes. They haven't gone to that new technology yet, but I hear that Essex County is investigating it now because one of the vendors that has done business with us regarding this technology has been invited down there to talk to Joe Pavancha, the county clerk. But Franklin County, Wanda Murtaugh is the clerk there, and she thinks it'll be a while before they convert to this technology. Some clerks feel that the record area, like we're in now, should be books. I mean, they're from the old school, and they said, look, when you go into a county clerk's office, should be books. Well, that's fine, and I can live with that. But when you run out of space and there's no room for these books, then you have to either, you know what, and that's what we did. We decided to go to the system that Don explained to you a moment ago, and we'll explain further. But there's our racks. If Calvin can have have a view of the mortgage books, which are down there. All those blue books, there are mortgage books. There's no more room to put those mortgage books. Where are we going to go with them? You can't bring them downstairs because people like to refer to them, and they're not going to go downstairs in the storage room to find the mortgage book. So as you view or
Pan around the room, you can see that there's not much room left. Even we're using the top of these file cabinets for grantee grantor books. And over here, area for deed storage, pretty much all filled up. So this is why we decided that we have to make a move, and we have to do it quickly. So we've been doing this now a little bit more than a year, and it's working out fine. And shortly we have 2 or 3 abstractors that you can spend a couple of moments with, and they'll explain to you, because they're the primary users of the information here in the records room. All right, let's move around and talk to Donna and find out what she's going to show us on the other side. All right, John?
Certainly.
All right, what are we going to do next, Donna?
Okay, I'd like to this is a retrieve station. We have 4 of these in our back recording room, and I'd like to retrieve Gordy's deed that I scanned in for you a minute ago.
Okay.
There it is.
See that? And John was worried that it wouldn't work.
Oh.
This is technology at its best. You never know. The Murphy's Law generally applies within 10 feet of where I'm holding a microphone. But today you guys got lucky, that's all.
See that?
Yeah.
Okay, but that's how we retrieve a record. And also, we have an indexing system that was set up by our computer department here in Clinton County. Let's see. We'll look for a mortgagor. Let's try this one.
Somebody else we've heard of, Little G. Little G.
And here we have Gordy Little. Okay. And we can get like detailed information. And then when they have whatever information they need, if it's a book and page, they can go to a book. If not, if it's an instrument number, they would retrieve it from our retrieve area.
Thank God I pay my taxes, right, John? Holy mackerel.
Okay.
Far cry from the old days, that's all I can say. It's just absolutely amazing. So how many stations do you have now?
We have 4 back here, 1 at the front office.
Well, I think when the people in the other counties see this, they'll say, oh, we got to call John. We got to get going on this.
The one at the front counter that the girls in the front use, again, for consumer edification, consumer speed or whatever. They can, if someone comes in and wants a copy of their deed, don't have to come back to find it. If it's a current deed, since we started this retrieval system, they can make a copy of it right in the front. Don't even have to come back to the vault. So that's saving time for our customers as well.
Well, there's so much else to do for the staff here with all these new duties that you're getting all the time and all the extra things to record. You're going to need all that spare time you can get. And it doesn't seem to me like there's too much of that around here.
Attorneys and abstractors use our materials and our records probably more than the general public. So perhaps you'd like to chat with an abstractor or 2 before you leave today, and then maybe can come back and we can just pinpoint what certain books and certain areas are of the vault that might be interesting. But I think while there's abstractors here, maybe you should spend a moment or 2 talking to them.
I'd love to do it. And thank you, Donna, for all your help.
You're welcome.
Okay, John, what's next?
Well, I told you that the primary users of our record room perhaps would be attorneys and abstractors. So I thought that it would be nice if you could interview a couple of abstractors. We have 3 or 4 that are here today, and one right with us happens to be Fran Wiley from Liberty Abstract. So I think Fran might be able to tell you what her principal duties are and what an abstractor does.
Fran, it's really pleasant to meet you. Thank you for letting us talk to you and intrude on your job for a minute.
No problem.
I'm sure many of our viewers have no idea what an abstractor does. So would you explain that to us?
Sure. Well, we're here, as you said, in the county clerk's office. The records here are public. There are a lot of different types of records, but we mostly deal with the records pertaining to real estate. deeds, mortgages, liens against property. A lot of tax maps, survey maps, plotting out people's property descriptions, making sure what they own today has been deeded to them properly.
Do you spend a lot of your time here or a little?
Well, this is where I spend my day.
The whole day?
Yes,
Every
I do.
day?
And I've worked here now for 15 years, so I've spent a lot of time here.
Okay, and just basically doing the research?
We do a lot of research. People selling property, subdividing property, applying for mortgages when they're buying a home, or refinancing their current mortgage or home equity. Banks require that they have a title search done and that everything's okay with the property before they're given money to buy a piece of property or sell a piece of property.
That's great. Well, thanks so much for talking with us. Good luck.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, we moved about 20 paces.
Well, we're at the workstation here of another abstractor. This is Dan Levesque from Clinton Abstract, and it looks like he's looking at an old deed book. As you can see there, he's looking at the grantor, who was the fellow who transferred the property. And then when you finish with Dan, there's James Carlin down in the end, who is Centennial Abstract. And maybe you'd like to just spend a moment or two.
And we'll do it. Dan, how are you doing?
Not too bad.
Seen you around here for a long time.
Well, yeah, 5 years now. Yeah.
Is it really 5 years?
Yep.
Time flies when you're having fun.
I don't know about that, but
Do you ever have a feeling that you're touching history when you open these old books?
sure, yeah, every day. It's very interesting.
So the great handwriting, just the dates themselves. We looked at one book that dated back to 1785. Most of the stuff you deal with doesn't go back quite that far.
Yeah, most of our stuff goes back 40 years, like in the 50s here, and here you can see the writing's pretty legible.
Yeah, it's truly amazing,
Yes,
and it's amazing how many of the family names still exist in the area.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting. Some of the names have existed since long before that, but in the 1950s, a lot of these families were getting established in this area. So what basically do you do in the course of a day, Dan?
Well, we use these indexes all day. You search indexes, like my name might be, in this, for instance, Gibbard. You search all the deeds to see what he's transferred or what he's sold. And then you go over to the mortgages and do the same thing, just see what he's mortgaged.
What kind of training did you have for this job?
Well, actually, I had no training at all when I first started. I had no training, but Brian and Ed, my bosses, basically trained me on the spot. Still learning that right now.
Are you really?
It's a 5-year process, yeah.
No kidding.
Yep, learn something new just about every week.
So you spend all of your day here, every day?
Yes, yep,
All right.
8 hours a day.
Okay. It's what you choose to do.
That's what I choose to do. Yeah.
All right, and it's a great job. Dan, thanks so much for talking with us.
You're welcome.
Let's walk and talk as we get on and talk to my friend James Carlin down here in the corner. Man, he's looking tremendously busy. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you. How are you?
What organization do you represent?
I own Centennial Abstract Company. We started about 2.5, 3 years ago. I'm doing abstracting here in Clinton County and Franklin and Essex County.
How's it going?
Good. It's been a great 3 years. Been very busy and enjoyed it.
You've done other things like your famous or infamous brother
Yes.
down through the years. How did you ever decide to settle on this?
Well, this is the first job I had when I came out of college. I did this in New Jersey for 7 years.
Oh, yeah, you told me that.
And so when I came back up here, I took some other opportunities, and then a couple of years ago I had the opportunity to open this and availed myself of that, and have enjoyed it ever since.
This is what you do primarily for a living now? Or?
This is a small part of what I do, being the owner. We have a small company. I have 3 employees, so I do a lot of the research myself, and then I also do all the typing of the commitments and abstracts and issuing of the policies and the reading of the title commitments and different things like that. So this is a small part of what I do, but it's probably the most interesting part of what we do.
Now, did you study this kind of thing in college?
Not in college, no, but I went through a training process down in New Jersey with the company I worked for there, and we had to be licensed by the state down in New Jersey, so you had to take training courses to learn what you were doing down there. And then a lot of it's on-the-job training, and you still learn something new every day.
That's what all the other abstractors have been telling us. Are you affected a lot by new laws?
Somewhat. Most of what we as new laws come into effect that affect estates and title to property, that affects us. But a lot of what we do, we have to also take into account old laws, like if someone died in the 30s, laws that affected their estate may be different than the laws that affect them today and things like that. So we have to have a little bit of knowledge, or at least know where to find the information.
Sounds to me like you have to have a lot of knowledge.
Yeah. Well, depends on the search. Some are more intricate and detailed than others. Most of it's pretty routine, most people would think, but sometimes you run into interesting ones that tax a lot of your knowledge.
Yeah, especially when things were very, very different from 60 years ago than they are in 1999.
They sure are.
Yeah. Great, Jim. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good luck with your job.
All right, thanks a lot. Take care.
All right. This is an amazing place. If you can't feel Plattsburgh and Clinton County history by standing in this room, then we haven't conveyed the message to you. It's such a neat place.
To bear that out even further, we have Doris Burgess over here, who is working with someone in an effort to find some genealogy information, and she's consulting one of our old census books right now. So you might want to...
Yes, I'm going to sneak over and talk with Doris Burgess like I've never seen her before.
Hi, Gordy.
How are you? Thought I saw you whipping by me in a local restaurant the other day. My wife said, "There goes Doris." I couldn't get out of my chair because I was too busy feeding my face. But I saw you somewhere.
Sorry I didn't see you.
That's perfectly all right. It's not that I'm tiny or anything, but you were just looking to get out.
Oh.
So how you been?
Fine, thank you.
I've been terrific. You haven't changed a bit since...
You're being nice.
Since way back when. Did we bowl together, Doris?
Back in the 60s.
Oh, yeah, well. Like I said, the 60s was a very good decade. So what the heck are you doing here?
Well, I volunteer 2 days a week with Addie Shields, Clinton County historian.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
We have a man in the office that's from Connecticut and researching his grandparents who were from Redford. So I'm doing the 1892 census to try to find his grandmother and grandfather.
You know, that's a fun thing to do, though, isn't it?
I really do like it. Enjoy it.
You know, my friend Keith Herculo is the city clerk, and Keith loves to do research for people.
I do.
And if he can find some senior citizen who's 80 or 82 or 85 or 88 years old and put together a little bit of his family history, because people lose track. I mean, records were not kept very well 80, 90 years ago.
And some were lost.
And some were completely lost.
Right.
And it's amazing the lengths you have to go through to track people down.
That's right. Yes.
Have you done your own family history?
All sides.
Have you really?
Yes.
I can't believe it. You've been involved in this for a long time now.
Quite some time. Yes. Bob's side and my side.
Oh, my goodness. How far back have you traced your own?
To the early 1800s on my side, but his side, one of the Montes, back to 1625.
Come on.
Yes.
How did you do that?
A lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of patience.
Yeah, people think, oh, we just get on the internet and buy one of those software programs and punch up the name, Bob Burgess, and we'll find out who our 17 great-granddaddy was way back when.
Not true.
Ain't so easy.
No. Do a lot of visiting the cemeteries, taking pictures, looking up old records, photographs, and things that are left when people die, going through their belongings. Found marriage records, baptismal, wills.
It's frustrating and trying, but also very rewarding when you find a little nubbin of information
right.
somewhere.
Very, very. 'Cause sometimes you find things you don't want to find. You wish you
I
hadn't
suppose,
found.
but then I think it's really neat when I can find that I had a real rogues gallery in my history as I trace my mother's genealogy back and my dad's, and we find a few pirates and thieves and bad guys and good guys.
Bootleggers.
And bootleggers. Lots of bootleggers. But this is really fun to go back in time and find out where you came from. We've talked about genealogy several times. Maybe I'll do a whole program on genealogy sometime. It's worth the effort.
Yes, it is.
I
Certainly.
don't think the Mormons have cornered the market on genealogy, but we can thank the Mormons for a lot of the records that help us find our ancestors.
Right, but that's only as good as the people putting the information in there. Yeah. I found much in my family that was incorrectly submitted. So we have to verify, where we get it and document it. Be sure that it's
I know
accurate.
I know you've lived around here for a long time, but were you born and brought up here? I never asked you
Yes,
that.
yes, Bob too.
Bob too, both.
Both. We lived across the field from each other as kids.
Come on. And they said it wouldn't last.
Right, 52 years.
Isn't that marvelous? Oh, Doris, that's absolutely amazing. And I wasn't kidding when I said you haven't changed a bit from the time I first met you. It has to do with how you look at life, I think.
I think so, right.
That's great. But the genealogy is an awful lot of fun. I know a lot of people who are trying to do it now and have no idea how to get started. But you just have to jump in with both feet, meet people, talk to people. We did a wonderful interview, as we've done a couple interviews, with Clyde Rabideau Sr. And Clyde loves statistics, loves the old census records. He's written a number of books, not only about his family, but others. And his project now, and he's about 3/4 of the way finished, is to update and catalog every cemetery
Yes, and we have
every gravestone in Clinton County.
we have some of his latest books that he just finished St.
Just finished
Peter's
one.
and St. John's, I believe.
That's no small job all by itself.
No, it isn't. St. Peter's and Lady Victory together.
Yeah.
And St. John's.
And he took us to an old family cemetery out in the woods off the Turner Road in the town of Schuyler Falls that was completely overgrown. And that bothers me when I see cemeteries that are overgrown. The families have long since either moved away or they don't care anymore, and that's sad. But to spend 2 summers in a row, I guess, last summer and this summer,
Right.
kneeling down in the ground with a mirror, reflecting the sunlight on the words on that stone and trying to figure out what it said.
He did a terrific job. We have the books in the Clinton County Historian's office that he did.
He's got his first one finished, and the next one is going to be out by sometime next year, hopefully by this time, and I don't know what he'll do as a project, but thank goodness for people like that who are willing to spend the time, because we, as you know, the McClellans
Oh, yes.
did unbelievable job before computers and cataloging cemeteries and gravestones in Clinton County, but we're talking a long time ago. A lot has happened since then.
Oh, yes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But they did an excellent job, too. In fact, this man that I'm just doing some research on, I found his family up in Redford in the cemetery records and
No
births
kidding.
and baptismal records.
That's great. You should make $1,000 an hour for what you do, but generally,
Volunteer.
yeah, that's what I mean. Generally, you do things because you enjoy doing it.
Correct.
Nothing could be more pleasant than working with Addie Shields. We've
Oh.
mentioned her name a couple of times in this program, and we did a long program with Addie herself. And getting involved with people who are willing to collect the history and to perpetuate that information and to try to inspire other people to do genealogy, but getting the young kids.
If anybody's interested, you just start with your own family and work backwards. That's the easiest way to
Boy,
do
that
it.
sounds so simple. Start with your own family and work backwards.
Right.
We've talked about Calvin and his Castines and how many different ways are there to pronounce and spell that name, and most of his relatives came over here relatively recently from Canada, right, Calvin? And so it's difficult to trace him back in this area and then to go up to Canada and trace those records.
Well, most of my family migrated in from Canada, so it is possible. It's a little longer, more tedious to do, but it can be done.
And I popped open my email the other night, and I got an email from some guy by the name of Tim Little. I didn't know there were any Tim Littles in my family tree. You know, he was going to sell me a handmade coat of arms for $97. We'll do it and send it to you. If you don't like it, send it back, and it won't cost you a penny. I don't know, how do you recycle a handmade coat of arms for the Little family? Anyway,
You donate it to some other Littles.
Change the Tim to a Jim, or the Gordy to a Lordy, or whatever. But it's amazing. There are a lot of people who can be easily deceived. We mentioned this before, but if you're a computer buff and you don't know much about genealogy, you can be sucked in and spend a lot of money.
Yes.
But you should bear in mind, if you're going to start a genealogical search about your own family, that it's going to take a little time and a lot of elbow grease and hard work. It's not something you're going to be able to buy in one software package, that's for sure.
That's for sure. And I suggest that the younger generation start now while their grandparents and their parents are still here.
You know, that's another point which we can't reiterate enough on this program or any other. I have said so many times, when you go to visit grandma or grandpa or great-grandma or great-grandpa, if you're lucky enough to have some, sit down and get some information. Just take that little pocket tape recorder and let it run. Even if they're afraid of it, put it in your pocket. Get some of that oral history down, because when they're gone and you can't find the family Bible, you could be you-know-where without a paddle.
That's correct.
It's really, really difficult. And as these older folks die off, as we all must do sometime, even though we don't look forward to it, how much information goes with us?
That's right. Even, you know, like I say, my daughters, now's the time to ask me what they want to know.
Yeah. You know, think about that on a larger scale, and just how many photographs you may have in your home. And if you don't catalog those photographs, I mean, we have drawers and cabinets, you know, with our huge family. You can imagine how many pictures we've taken. And if for some reason tomorrow morning Kay and I weren't around anymore, there would be thousands of those photographs that nobody would be able to identify.
You need to do that now. Mine are all done.
Oh, Doris, I can't even say that. But if I go home tonight and I tell Kay that every one of Doris Burgess's photographs are all done, what do you do, write on them, or what do you?
No, I put them in books and I label in the books.
We got books and we got bags and we got...
No, I have no bags and no boxes.
I got rolls of black and white film from the 1940s that are never developed. I got rolls of 8mm film from the 1950s that never even got developed, or that I tried to get developed and they had a wrong address, or the company was no longer in business. I mean...
Perhaps they can't be developed now.
I wrote a column for the paper next week that's about procrastinating, and that's... My middle name should be Procrastinator. But I never do today when I can put off till tomorrow.
I do read your articles every Sunday.
Well, the last week it was about messes, and I managed to create a lot of those, and a lot of that has to do with the procrastination. Well, maybe I'll clean my desk off.
And they are collected in the Clinton County Historian's office. You have your own file.
Oh, that's pathetic. That is pathetic. Who would ever care about stuff like that?
You'd be surprised probably in years to come.
You know what, Doris? I never had any idea when we walked in here today that you would be here, but we learned so much about the people we know, and there's so much that we don't know about what people do, and you have underlined something else for us about the importance of volunteerism in Clinton County. So many people volunteer their time to do things such as you're doing right here today for somebody else's benefit. It's rewarding to you, but it also gives a great deal back to the community.
Thank you, Gordy.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
You can hug the old guy for me if you want to.
Oh, he's on the golf
and
course
Bob
right
too.
now.
Oh, is he really?
Right.
See you later, Doris.
Okay, thanks, Gordy.
In every job, in every office across the United States and the world, there are a lot of little things that identify parts of the job that we call shop talk. When I walked in here, all I started hearing was UCCs. I had no idea if that was some kind of an imported bug that we get only in the summertime or what that meant. So now we're going to talk about it.
Well, you're going to learn what a UCC is today. Right on my right here is Rolly Lampkins, who handles our UCC work, and he's working on one as we speak, and maybe he can explain exactly the definition of a UCC and what we do with them.
Let's talk about it. Rolly, you and I meet in the parking lot all the time.
Sure
Say
do.
hello, have a good day every night.
Sure do.
On the way home. What the heck is a UCC?
A UCC is a lien against personal property, or it can be against real property. Say, for instance, you buy an automatic washer and dryer and you borrow the money from the bank. The bank wants to protect their lien so that you can't sell that washer and dryer. Therefore, they'll file a UCC in this office. Now, you turn around, say a year later, by the way, a UCC is good for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Say a year later you want to sell it. I come to you and I'm going to buy it from you. But I want to make sure that there's no liens against it before I buy it. So I come down here and I put your name into the computer or the hand indexing book, which is over here.
Yeah.
And if there's no listing, I know that it's clear. So therefore I can buy it from you. If there is, I go back to you and tell you, well, you've got a lien against it. Well, I'm going to pay it off. When you buy it, I'm going down and pay it off. So there's free and clear.
So that's how it works, and your job is to track those down
That's correct.
every day.
Index them, track them down every day, day in, day out.
We wonder why we choose to do what we do to make a living. Is this what I'm sure when you were 9 years old, you didn't say, I think I'm going to work with UCCs all my life.
No, I did not. I did not.
How did you get started in this business?
Well, I first started in here in 1984.
Wow.
And
84?
right, I've been with the county 32 years this
Oh,
October.
man.
I spent 17 in the motor vehicle.
Oh, I know that.
But anyway, I came in here and I was doing the indexing and so forth on the deeds and the mortgages. And with the former county clerk, he asked me to switch over to the UCCs, which I did. And I like it very much.
It's amazing. Everybody's got to be someplace, as the old joke goes, right, John?
You're right. Thank
right.
you, Rolly. By the way,
Thank you
while
very
we're-
much, Rolly.
While we're standing here, this is a private individual doing some research on our retrieval station. I think it's Gary Buckpet, who is probably looking up some of the mortgage records, and then perhaps he'll send the people who have recently recorded new mortgages a letter saying that he has mortgage insurance available and would like them to sign up with him. And that's primarily what he's doing. So you can see that the various types of people. You spoke with a person checking census record. There's another individual that is doing some other types of work. So there's all kinds of people in several different walks of life that come in here daily and use our facilities.
Amazing resource, and it's available to everybody. So what are we going to do next?
Well, before we leave the records room, I would like Teresa to walk around with you to show you exactly what else is here. People walk into this vault and they're just amazed to see all these file cabinets and they see all these books, and these are lay people and they don't know where to go, or it's kind of scary to see so many records. So, but it's quite simple, and Teresa will walk around just for a minute and show you what's what.
We'll set the scene. All right, let me walk behind Calvin here. You thought you were off the hook, Teresa. No way. All right, just
John doesn't let you off the hook.
No. So just
Because as soon as you get off one hook, he has another ready.
There's a hook waiting, right? All right.
Mary needs you out front also, John.
All right. Just you can sneak by us, John. All right. Go ahead and just explain in a general way what's in this room.
Okay, well, in these files, as you can see, we have a lot of records stored here, and you can see that we are running out of space for all the records. In these filing cabinets, we have assumed business name certificates filed. We have tax liens, federal and state tax liens, judgments, which are also indexed in our judgment dockets back here. Okay, these are civil records here. This is a civil record index behind you. These are all indexed for all of our books, our civil actions, our corporate index, our DBA index. Okay, we have to index them in the books, physically file them in the cabinets. And the top of this cabinet are wetlands maps. We have these here for public inspection only. We don't make copies of them or anything like that. They have to go to the DEC for copies, but they can come in here and look to see if their property is bordered or is wetlands.
Okay.
Okay, and as you go down, on the top of all these are the older grantee-grantor index. This was like the middle, from the old hand-indexed ones to the computer index. And then we go on, and this is our old map storage system. This has been changed. I'll show you the new one in a minute. But this is the way the older maps were filed. They had to be linen. They had to be either a 20 by 20 or a 20 by 40, so they would fit in these books. And you can see that some of them are getting a little bit
Threadbare,
on the edge, right,
yeah,
from where they're being used. But that's the map storage. Behind this section are all sealed records. Most of this is court, criminal, sealed records that are not open to the public. This door is locked, and their only access is county employees or court employees from upstairs. All these books here are all judgment dockets, and in here is listed all the judgments that are filed against any individual. money judgments. You know, when an individual has gone to either small claims court or to Supreme or County Court, been granted a judgment, they're filed in the files, in all these civil files under here, and entered in the judgment dockets. And then you go on, we have liens against real property, all the way down through here. And this is our new map storage system, which, as you can see, is a much better system.
Wow, wow.
They are now put in a plastic envelope. They have to be a different size. We now require, I'm trying to put that in here. I'll put it up here. We now require them to be 18 by 24 or 24 by 36. Most of the surveyors cannot get the linen anymore, so they had to go to a new storage system. So we had to go to a new storage system. But these maps, 100 years from now, are going to be in a lot better condition than the old maps. So it's a new system, it's an expensive system, but it's great. Okay, and along the wall here are our old mortgagor index, which again are now done only on the computer. These are the real old books, and all along here are books of mortgages, books of assignments of mortgages, and books of satisfactions. And that pretty much does it. We have soldiers' discharges. The old books are under the counter right here. On the other side, we also record soldiers' discharges here. What else can I tell you?
It's an amazing room, I'll tell you
Isn't
that.
it?
Oh,
Isn't it?
my.
And we have so many records. But our storage system has gotten much, much better. Like I said, we went
Sounds
to
to me like it's improving all the time.
optical disc storage, because as you can see, we just have run out of space.
And not too soon by the sound of things.
No, and we're getting critical as far as where are we going to store our civil records. These are all files, and these files used to be very thin, and now with what is required in court and so many more papers, we have files that take up a whole drawer all by themselves.
We are inundated with paperwork, and people
We
said
really
when the
are.
computer age came, there won't be any more paperwork. Guess what?
Well, there's
There's
a
still
lot more paperwork, except like our book storage. Now, putting it on an optical disc is taking up a lot less room than creating a book. And it's really better storage, because you know the books. Over the years, we've had to recreate the older books. We've had to have them microfilmed again, copies made. And the new ones where they have made the copies are very hard to read. They're not the quality that the old ones were, because they have to reduce them. You know, those old books were so big, and they have to reduce them, and you don't have the quality, and it's harder to read. But again, that was a necessity, because the old books were just falling apart, literally. If you look at these old mortgage index books, and you can see the condition of the binders.
Yeah, those are only 20-some years old.
Right,
most
and
of
we
them.
do have, but they get a lot of use,
Yeah.
and we do have to have some of those redone, and it's a very expensive process when we have to have those redone. But from time to time we do, as the county lets us have the money.
Well, this is truly an amazing place, Teresa, and you are an amazing lady for having spent all those years here and to help keep people like John in line every day.
Well, like I said, I enjoy it here, and you don't stay in a place that long unless you like your job.
That's great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.